What's going on, guys? So welcome back to a Shoky Transformers review. And it feels weird to be doing this again, not gonna lie. It's been many months since I've done a proper review. And of course, the first thing I did was the last thing for Double October, which of course sparked the fact that I needed to go ahead and review things. In fact, I have, at very minimum, 33 things I have to film. And that's crazy. So we're going to start out with something I at least had out on the table, and we're going to go from there. And you guys probably saw the out the box for this, and you'll probably see the out the boxes for many of the things we're going to look at, or you did see them. So let's just go. So speaking of Transformers, obviously, we have the Studio Series 86, number 7, Dinobot Slug. Slug. Sorry, I have hiccups. It's Slag. It's always Slug. It'll never be Slug. Whether that is a bad word or they just lost the license. Either way, it's always going to be Slug. And of course, it's got Daniel Witwicky with it. Which, let's just be honest, doesn't matter. All right, so you got the Transformers movie logo. You got Transformers there. You got Generation there. You got Takara Tomy there, which is all a good thing. Nice little drawn image there. It does look nice. Come around here, you got a repeat of that, and normally you would have the 86 logo right there, but I took the thing out of the box so that I can show it to you. And you come to the back, and you got, there he is in the butt mood. Let's see, big screen inspired scale, detail, backdrop, other things. Okay, Mockery of Justice, that's the background. And you got him there in his lovely dino mode, which is a bit more metallic on camera than it is in reality, but that's what happens when you do things like this. You got a little tiny Daniel thingy, and you have the whole set there. Converts in 32 steps. Okay, so Dinobot Slug excuses himself as he stomps over a crushed Quintesson prosecutor. That's true. I like that they actually included that as a thing. Come around here, and you got that side of the box. So that's enough of that. So let's look at the other cardboard thing. And you get the Studio Series set thingy, which is pretty cool, not gonna lie. And I mean, if one is so included, you could totally just, you know. And I think it's a lot smaller than I remember. Huh, weird. These Studio Series are supposed to be big. Either way, looks cool. You got the metal background, all this stuff. If you're interested in these things, good for you. It's just trash to me. I did give away all the other ones I had up until pretty much this point. Yeah. So that's pretty much going to be trash. But if you like these things, cool. If you have a display set up with them, hey, you should come share that on the Shoky Discord. We have a whole Transformers section. Shoky Discord, link down below. Along with, you know, merch and all the other things you can do. Let's get this out of here. And there we go. Big, chunky Tricerabooty. Let me drop this down a little bit. Okay, so Dinobot Slagorific boy. And there he is in his Dino mode. Normally I wouldn't start in Dino mode, I don't think. It's kind of a weird thing with Dinobots, because you kind of have to make your decision as to whether or not you're going to keep them in Dino mode or if you're going to keep them in bot mode. I think for purposes of my collection, they'll stay in Dino mode, so that's kind of how we're going to end up with this. So the Taro video, for those who care about those sort of things, which is over on the secondary channel, the Taro video will show you how to get him back to Dino mode. But yeah, there he is, and he's a potato. Pretty much all they ever are. It's like, the reason I always call it a potato is because of the Power of the Primes versions of the Dinobots. Just very much potatoes. Actually, now that I think about it, I still have that somewhere, so I could have brought that out, and so you can see how pathetic the Power of the Primes version was. Actually, the Power of the Primes. But yeah, it's actually got some decent paint on it. You know, got some gold-ish paint here, right here across the face. Really nice blue metallic eyeball paint. Big old Autobot symbol for the forehead there with some nice line work. It's actually pretty good. Although they went cheap on the frickin' horns. Come on, Hasbro. This is a Studio Series. Why give me anything hollow? So I completely expect DNA Designs to completely give us something like that. Another thing that went cheaply on was this back leg, in my opinion, because this is, I mean, come on. Like, big chunky, thin and stupid. Like, what are they doing here? Also, they got this part painted here. Didn't bother with this part. Don't know why. You also got more dark gray paint here, along with some kind of whitish, silverish paint. I don't even know what to technically call that. Champagne. It's got a little bit of a metallic sheen to it. Is it the same? I got some silver kind of here, some silverish gray. The tail is all painted here. The butt vents are painted. You do have this guy sticking out the tail that's not painted. That should have been gold too. These are gold up here, so he does look pretty good. You do have ports and such across the body. Also, I feel like I'm missing a thing. Hold on. Never mind. I'm just stupid. Okay. So, just for quick comparison, we'll bring out the only other G1 kind of representation I have, and that is the DX9 version of the potato. So you can see here, similar enough design, except they went with the red horns instead of the silver horns. Silver horns are movie accurate, so that's just a thing. Presumably, DNA will give you red or silver horns that are also complete. Chrome frill, not chrome frill, hard to say that. Also, I think this is more representation of the toy. I also fully expect, if they can, DNA will give you an entire clear head for a toy mode if you want to. Also, yellow toes, non-yellow toes. But essentially, they captured the same concept. Obviously, significantly smaller and different shaped head. Also, you see the potato happening here now. It's a little bit easier when he's smoother. And of course, we have to bring out actual Grimbutt himself, so you can see how our dino bodies look together. That's pretty awesome. Let's come down a little bit and kind of look up at them so we can see how awesome they are. And actually, just for the heck of it, I already had him here, right? Okay. So in this mode, you can utilize the Daniel, which is the second dumbest thing they've ever done. Wheelie is slightly dumber because he's stuck in a very particular position. The Daniel figure here is stuck just kind of sitting. It's painted along here on the legs, yellow paint there, yellow paint on the dome, and not yellow paint, but painted on the dome, sorry. And then the fists right there. Sorry, my nose just started running right before filming. I think it's because I got heartburn really bad. Alright, so much like the wheelie, he's got a screw kind of holding on there, just ball joint mounts, stuck in a sitting position, but his arms are a little bit more neutral than Wheelie's. And Wheelie is significantly more painted, but, this guy is just as hollow as you'd expect. You can move his arms a little up here, and you can just move the hips. That's literally all you can do. And you can have him riding Slag as such, very much like Grimlock did, but you can tuck the legs in a little nicer for that kind of look. I feel like I've got way too much exposure happening here. Hold on. There we go. I had to darken it down a little bit with all that whiteness. It gets bleached out by the camera. So, there it goes. You can have Daniel riding that. And of course, if you have more weapons, you can plug them here, here, here. Or if you have any of the weaponizers from Kingdom, any of those things, the fossilizers, any of that crap, you can generally plug things into the 5mm ports. Like a transformer do. Can't move my chair. There's a box in the way. So, let's go ahead and kick over to transformation. A little bit here so I can function. Alright, so transformation is fairly intuitive. In fact, I've never once looked at the instructions. So we need to come up back here, push down, pull the gun out from the tail. And then you can take the rear legs, get them up in here. There's a slight fitment issue there, but You want to push that all the way up inside, and then close that up all the way. Do the same thing over here. That one actually clearance is good, just good. So that's all said and done. Now you want to grab the tail and kind of pull up and out. It's latched here because they're so smart that they put painted parts plugged into other painted parts. And then you can come up here to the sides, unwrap the potato quite a bit there, and then can separate here like an egg. Grab all of this, kind of move it up and out the way like so, and then you find your leggies. So this is one of the first Slags I've ever seen that the toes themselves are not actually these parts. So it didn't fold the legs up the way you would expect. They folded them up this way. Interesting engineering. Okay, so you are also tabbed in here, right there, and right there. And so you can just extend the knee. And there's a couple ratchets in here, so you can position the knee however you need to. Pretty much that's about as straight as it gets. I think that's roughly the same. Not Technoite, it's not. Hold on. One click, one click. Okay. So now we've got our hips. Go ahead and rotate at the waist like that. And now here's something you could technically choose to do if you want. If you want to have more of a G1 toy look, you can totally leave those out. Yeah, if that's your gig, you could totally do it. But otherwise, you want to come back here. You got this little gate here that opens up. And then you can swivel. Oh, yeah, get your foot out of the way. Swivel this in, except you want the foot part facing out and then up. And then you close this down and goes into that little slot right there. And then just fix your foot. And to see that on the other side, flip that guy up, pop the ankle, rotate that, flip in, rotate up, tab, slot, boop, boop. Okay, so now we got him pretty good. You can just kind of finagle the feet however you want to at this point. So this is one of the things that's a little different on this one, and it's an interesting way to have done it. So normally you'd have just this situation here. This would have actually been his mouth, but you can see that's already there in place. So what are we going to do with all this section? I'm glad you asked. So what you want to do is grab this section. I don't have a spudger handy. I think there's one on the desk. So pull that down, and you've got all of this going on in here. And then what you'll have is a couple double hinges that will pull out like so. And then that will line up there. And then you've got this section, just flip that back. So one thing they did engineering wise was smart, and the other part you're kind of wondering how and why. At least it leaves me wondering how and why. Like these legs make me wonder how and why. Okay, so this thing, it's going to come untabbed regardless, so you can just kind of work with it. You can see here the two hinges that allow this to swing out. Okay, so swing that down, mouth comes down. Hold on, wait, open that up all the way. There we go. So swing that down. Wait, my bad. Go ahead and swing that all down. The entire mouth, not just the lower jaw. Flip the head up. Now we close this in. It swung too far. It swung too far. What happened here? Come on. Oh, I was wondering what was stopping it. It was this part. Okay, so this will close up. You've got some tabs there that will kind of slot in across there, and then just sort of rest the neck where it's kind of safe, and then tilt the dyno head down. Grab the fist here. And this is an interesting way to have done this. So you flip the fist up and then kind of lock it in place and then rotate. And now it's actually down where it should be. It's an interesting way. I've never seen it done this way. And then this one's always a little stiffer. There we go. And rotate the fist. Now, mind you, he comes in bot mode. So it's one of those things that I had to figure out literally on my own because I wasn't going to look at the instructions. Who looks at instructions? Now, the backpack we got to get squared away. So we want this to tilt in. Sorry, I got to bring this up. You got 2 tabs back here that will go into slots there. So bring that up like so. And then all of this will tuck up into here. There it goes. Okay, so all of that has to fold up just right, and there's a groove that will sit in. And it's got a jetpack, sort of. And then all of this needs to come up and pretty much rest right there. It doesn't really tab into anybody. And then you can open these all the way or just barely, however you want to do it. And I think we are done. That is our Sluggy boy in his robot mode. And he looks good. Camera's glowing a bit. I remembered it did this the last time I was filming, and I was like, what the heck is going on here? But he does look good. He's not quite as vibrant as it's probably showing up on camera, but I guess the lighting and everything else like that. One thing I like is that they went with the red head, which is not always the thing they do, but I guess for movie purposes, this is the way to do it. So we got the nice blue metallic eyes. They look fantastic. Due to the thing that does not lock in place, you can get a lot of head movement. I would argue you probably shouldn't. And his head itself is just on a ball joint, so you can rotate it. Though, of course, with the obvious problem of the dyno head. So if you need to, pop that up, position the head, pop that back down. So that's pretty good. I didn't talk about articulation in dyno mode because it's basically the same articulation for robot mode, so we'll talk about it now. You do have shoulder that comes straight up to 90 degrees, a little bit past. You can rotate it there with some soft-ish ratchets. You do get bicep swivel, and then you get a double jointed elbow that helps you out like that. But in dyno mode, this is interesting. So to give it kind of a foreleg, it has an extra ratchet here, or an extra joint that allows it to have that slight bend to it, but then it gets a little longer for bot mode. You have rotating hands, which he can hold on to as one accessory, which, by the way, this is paint. It's the same color paint as the, I think there's technically meant to be rockets right there on the back. So that's fine. I will say that the arms seem a little strange and actually really broad shoulders, almost like his arms should kind of come out from here, but also seems like they should be up a little, like they should come up, but they don't. We already saw that he has a waist swivel, which is fine, but the tail gets in the way. So if you want the tail to stay tucked away super nice like that, don't rotate the waist. You also get some nice black paint right there. This is all painted, like I said, and then tampoed. Legs come up on a soft ratchet. Goes out on a pretty stiff friction hinge there. Nice tight pin, which is good, I guess. Thigh rotation, exposed screws. Thanks for that, Hasbro. Now, you technically have a double jointed knee, but the bottom knee seems to be the one that takes precedent, like this. Though the top knee works, so you actually get quite a lot of movement out of it. And like I said, you know, you can reposition this however you want to. You can have that knee further forward, but then that sort of gives you this look, which is unpleasant. So you can kick it back a little bit so it's a little more in line, but then it's back there. So, you know, some nice molded detail along the way, little braided spots there. Just a little bitty detail here. The paint on the knees to match the other Dinobots kind of looks good. Gold toes, as already pointed out. We do have a significant ankle rocker, which is absurd. And, you know, the way that they tuck the legs away is actually pretty cool. So I like that. The ankle rockers, though, they're kind of loose. So you just got to keep his feet really planted. The other thing is he doesn't come with a sword, but that's not strange because the movie universe didn't necessarily use the swords. Now, we may as well get on to some comparisons. Okay, so of course we do have to have our Grimmy boy for comparison, and I think that it works, but I also think that Grimlock should be taller. Like, Grimlock doesn't seem big enough. This is actually kind of a weird issue that they have with the Dinobots, like the MP Dinobots. So the only one that Takara has done was Grimlock, and then other ones came along to kind of fill in the gap, but they all kind of left MP Grimlock as the basis. But there was one that actually came with feet extensions to make that Grimlock a little bit taller. Now, mind you, it's only the dino head here that makes Slag a little bit too big in this mode, in my opinion, but I think that Grimlock should be beefier. Like, this is one of the few times I would argue that his chest should have been a bit wider. Because, I mean, his chest is significantly wider, and then that one is kind of narrow for what it is. And because I'm not going to do the DX9 comparison, because this guy's kind of a pain to transform, I'm going to compare it to the only other bot mode Slag I've got laying around, and that is the Planet X. So you can see, you know, these are significant size, because that's chug scale at best, not realistically MP, but these studio series are pretty well to scale with each other. Now, mind you, I don't have the rest of my studio series out. They're all still in package, or in box, I should say. So I can't do that comparison. But, I mean, you think a deluxe is normally, like, here. So the Dinobots are supposed to be really big in comparison. And I think they're pretty close to how the size should go. So I think with the Studio 86 series, along with the Kingdom series, at least Beast Wars related, they're getting the size really, really close. And of course, I'm sure actually I saw it today, there's a repro label set for this guy as well to give him a little bit more toy deco or even movie deco. And, unfortunately, I don't have a ton of stuff to compare them to. Like I said, most of my stuff is still in storage. It just so happened to be that I got a lot of my third-party Transformers out. But, it is what it is. Now, much like Grimlock with Wheelie, you do get the ability to use Daniel with him. He does have a peg coming out of his butt, and it is meant to specifically sit up here on the shoulder, and you can have him doing that number, which I wouldn't necessarily say he was like super best friends with Slag. Was he stuck with the Dinobots at this point? Probably, but I thought he was also with Magnus and that team, so I'm not sure. Okay, so this needs to tuck away. So this is one of the few things that I'll criticize. So might as well move on to final thoughts since I don't have anything else to say. So, what do we do about these Dinobots? Are we even going to get the full set? Because if I remember correctly, we didn't even have all of the Dinobots throughout the movie. I think most of them were on Earth, and I feel like Grimlock and Slag went to space. But I don't recall the rest of them going along for the ride. But will Hasbro bother to make the rest of the Studio Series Dinobots so that we at least have one full set that all scales together and looks very G1? I don't know. Good things about this. The size is a Dinobot size we've always wanted. This guy, along with Grimlock, are definitely the biggest ones we've ever gotten from Hasbro that were not an MP specifically. And I would argue that the MP Grimlock is pretty close to the Studio Series size, or vice versa, depending on how you really want to state that sentence. Paint-wise, the gold paint does look pretty good. The kind of champagne-colored paint, take it or leave it. It just depends on probably whichever figure you have. I figure if anything is going to go wrong, it's going to be here on these knee bits, and they're going to get scraped up for transformation and stuff like that. Or where the tail latches onto the toes down there in bot mode. Probably the only other spot you're really going to get some paint rubbage, and maybe here on the wings. Now, the other shortcomings, just talk about the negatives. Hollow horns. There was no need for that. And by the way, these just clip on to the pin that the head hinges on. Super easy. You know, they could have literally just done that. The other thing, these are painted. This is painted. The chest is painted. It's supposed to be the same color as these thighs and the frill. They could have painted the thighs and the frill as well. They chose not to, so they skimped on the paint. Didn't need the whole red to be painted on the body. That's fine. That stays the same. The silver plastic is actually not horrendous. And it's of a better quality than we probably ever got in the past, so worried about anything like something falling apart. Probably not even a thing needs to happen. Oh, my nose just really let go. What the heck? Sorry about that sniffing. The backpack, I feel like the tail was an afterthought, and it comes apart way too easy. I mean, like, this is just too much. Like, this backpack should have been fine. I feel like they should have engineered the tail to do something different. I mean, even if they had it disconnect entirely, I don't think people would have been upset. Hiding the legs was fantastic engineering that they've never attempted to do. I really do love that. It's kind of like with Grimlock hiding the tail and the legs properly. That was also really well done. Not every version manages that as well. But the old tails, if I remember correctly, used to have to tuck inside the legs, like it would split and go inside the legs. In fact, this version, the tail is the feet, you know, so that's something entirely different there. So I feel like this was an afterthought. It's not part of the normal design of this Dinobot, and I think they could have figured it out better. You also have a plug here for no apparent reason. Either that or that's a stand plug for when he's in bot mode if you're going to put him on some type of action base. Which I guess you could, in theory. Oh my god, my nose is just running like crazy. But for the most part, I think Daniel, much like I said with Wheelie, completely unnecessary, and we're going to have to wait for a third party to give us one that is worth a damn. However, I will say that if you have the MP version that came with Masterpiece Bumblebee 1.0, you'll probably be set. They're kind of a similar size, but at least that'll give you one that transforms and has a human head. But other than that, for the price, for $50-ish, $55, depending on where you got it, it's pretty good. Some of the proportions, a little weird. The way the knees function, a little weird. But overall, I'm very happy with it. Slag was my favorite Dinobot. Probably always will be. And to have one in a size class that finally makes sense is something to be definitely happy about. Though they could have knocked off a couple bucks and not given us this at all. And I would have been perfectly fine. But guys, let me know what you think down below. Are they killing it with these versions of the Dinobots? Or are they still lacking and need to try ever so slightly more? And at very least, give us a sludge, give us the original 3, and I'll be super happy. I don't need all 5 necessarily. I'll take all 5, but I definitely need the original 3. Let me know what you think down below, guys. And I will catch you on the next review. And remember, as always, keep on nerding.